Have you ever felt your mood crash because of a single harsh comment? Or maybe one rejection left you questioning your worth? Most people let the words and actions of others control their emotions, like puppets on a string. But what if you could break free? What if you could become so strong, so unshakable, that no insult, no criticism, no negativity could ever touch you? Welcome to Jung Psyche Hub, where we dive deep into the wisdom of Carl Jung to transform your mind and life. Today, we're revealing 5 powerful steps, inspired by Jung's timeless teachings, to help you master your inner world and become truly untouchable. Stick with us to the end, because you're about to discover practical tools to silence the noise, reclaim your power, and live life on your terms. If you're ready to change the game, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and let's start this journey together. Welcome to the first step on your journey to becoming untouchable. Let's start with a hard truth. No one can hurt you emotionally unless you let them. That's right, no insult, no rejection, no harsh word has the power to shake you unless you hand over the keys to your inner world. Most people don't realize this. They go through life reacting to every slight, every criticism, every sideways glance, letting the outside world dictate how they feel. But here's the secret that Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, uncovered. Your inner world is your fortress. When you master it, you become unshakable. So, what does this mean? Carl Jung introduced a concept called individuation, the process of becoming your true, authentic self, by integrating all parts of your psyche, including the light and the shadow. It's about discovering who you are at your core, beyond the noise of other people's opinions. When you embark on this journey, you stop giving others the power to define your worth. You stop letting their words pierce your confidence. You become untouchable because your strength comes from within, not from the approval of others. Let's paint a picture. Meet Sarah, a 32-year-old marketing manager who used to crumble every time her boss gave her critical feedback. A single comment like, "This report could have been better," would send her spiraling into self-doubt. She'd spend hours replaying the words in her head, wondering if she was good enough, if she belonged in her role. Sound familiar? Maybe you've been there too, letting someone else's opinion become the soundtrack of your inner world. For Sarah, the turning point came when she stumbled across Carl Jung's idea of individuation. She realized her worth wasn't tied to her boss's approval or anyone else's. She started asking herself, who am I when no one's watching? What do I value? Those questions shifted everything. Sarah began to see her inner world as a sacred space, one she could protect and strengthen. Instead of reacting to criticism with insecurity, she started observing it. She'd think, okay, my boss said the report needs work. That's feedback on the task, not on me as a person. By separating her sense of self from external judgments, she built a mental fortress. The next time her boss gave tough feedback, she nodded, took notes, and walked away unshaken. Her colleagues noticed the change. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, like someone who knew her worth. That's the power of owning your inner world. Now, let's break this down. Why do so many of us give others control over our emotions? It's because we've been conditioned to seek validation from the outside. From a young age, we're taught to care about what others think. Parents, teachers, friends, even strangers on the internet. Carl Jung would argue this is a trap. When you tie your self-worth to external approval, you're handing over the reins to your happiness. Someone doesn't like your outfit, you feel small. Someone disagrees with your opinion, you feel attacked. This is what Carl Jung called living in the persona. the mask we wear to please others. To become untouchable, you have to shed that mask and embrace your true self. Here's how you can start. First, recognize that your emotions are yours alone. No one can make you feel anything without your permission. If someone's words sting, it's not because of what they said. It's because of the meaning you gave those words. Carl Jung's teachings remind us that our reactions are shaped by our inner beliefs, often buried deep in what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we don't fully understand or accept. For example, if criticism hurts, it might be because your shadow holds a fear of not being good enough. The good news: you can work on that by shining a light on those hidden fears, and you take away their power. Let's go back to Sarah for a moment. When she started her journey of individuation, she didn't just brush off criticism, she dug deeper. She journaled about why her boss's words hit so hard. She realized she had a deep-seated fear of failure, rooted in her childhood, when she felt she had to be perfect to earn her parents' love. Once she faced that fear, it lost its grip. She didn't need her boss's approval to feel worthy anymore. She was building her own sense of self, brick by brick. Here's a practical step you can take today. Start observing your reactions. The next time someone says something that triggers you, a snarky comment, a dismissive attitude pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, why does this bother me? Is this about them? Or is it about something in me? This simple act of self-awareness is straight out of Carl Jung's playbook. It's the first step to reclaiming your power. When you stop reacting on autopilot and start responding with intention, you're no longer a puppet. You're the one pulling the strings. Another key to mastering your inner world is setting boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. Carl Jung believed that true strength comes from knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. If someone's negativity is dragging you down, you don't owe them a response. You don't have to argue, explain, or defend yourself. Protect your inner peace like it's a priceless treasure. For Sarah, this meant limiting how much she internalized her boss's feedback. She'd listen, take what was useful, and let the rest go. Over time, she became someone who could face any storm and walk away untouched. Let's wrap this up with a powerful truth. Your inner world is the only thing you can fully control. Not what people say, not what they do, but how you choose to respond. Carl Jung's wisdom shows us that by embracing individuation, by becoming your true, authentic self, you build a fortress no one can breach. No insult can shake you. No rejection can break you. You become untouchable, not because you're perfect, but because you've claimed the power within you. So, here's your first challenge. The next time someone tries to rattle you, pause. Don't react. Observe. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Then walk away with your head held high. Knowing your worth doesn't depend on anyone else. Stay with us, because in the next chapter, we'll dive into how to break free from emotional dependency and take your power to the next level. You're on your way to becoming untouchable. Let's keep going. Let's dive into the second step to becoming untouchable, breaking free from emotional dependency. If you've ever felt your happiness hinge on someone's approval, a friend's compliment, a partner's affection, or even a stranger's likes on social media, you're not alone. Most people live their lives tethered to the opinions and actions of others, letting external validation dictate their self-worth. But here's the truth. When your emotions depend on someone else, you're giving them the power to control you. To become untouchable, you need to cut those strings and find your strength within. Carl Jung's wisdom, particularly his concept of shadow work, shows us how to do exactly that. So, what is emotional dependency? It's when you rely on others to feel good about yourself. It's seeking a nod of approval to feel worthy. or needing someone's kindness to feel secure. Carl Jung would say this is a trap rooted in the shadow, the hidden parts of your psyche where fears and insecurities live. Those fears, like the fear of rejection or not being enough, keep you chained to other people's opinions. The moment you let go of that need for validation, you take a massive step toward becoming unshakable. Let's meet Michael, a 28-year-old graphic designer who used to live for the approval of others. Growing up, Michael was the kid who always tried to please everyone: his parents, his teachers, his friends. He'd change his opinions to fit in, say yes to things he didn't want to do, and even dress in ways that matched what his friends thought was cool. But deep down, he felt empty. Every time someone criticized him or ignored him, it was like a punch to his confidence. He was living for others, not for himself. Sound familiar? Maybe you've felt that pull to keep everyone happy, only to realize it's draining you. Michael's wake-up call came when a close friend dismissed his ideas during a group project. Instead of standing up for himself, he stayed quiet. But the hurt lingered. That's when he stumbled across Carl Jung's idea of shadow work, the process of facing the parts of yourself you've ignored or suppressed. Like the need to be liked, Michael realized his constant need for approval was rooted in a fear of being rejected, a fear buried in his shadow. By confronting it, he could set himself free. Here's how shadow work ties into becoming untouchable. Carl Jung taught that our shadow holds the beliefs and fears we don't want to face, like the fear of not being good enough. When someone's words or actions hurt you, it's often because they're poking at that shadow. For Michael, every rejection felt like proof he wasn't worthy. But through shadow work, he started asking tough questions. Why do I need everyone to like me? What am I afraid of if they don't? Those questions were like a flashlight, illuminating the insecurities he'd been avoiding. And once he saw them clearly, they lost their power. Let's talk about how you can do this. The first step is to stop seeking validation. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people, it means you stop needing their approval to feel whole. Carl Jung's philosophy reminds us that true strength comes from within, not from the applause of the crowd. For Michael, this meant setting boundaries. He stopped saying yes to every favor just to be liked. He started speaking his mind, even if it ruffled feathers. At first, it felt terrifying, like standing on a cliff's edge. But over time, he noticed something incredible. The less he sought approval, the more confident he became. Here's a practical exercise to try right now. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 times you felt hurt or insecure because of someone's words or actions. Next to each one, ask yourself, what fear did this trigger in me? Maybe it's the fear of not being enough, or the fear of being alone. This is shadow work in action, facing those fears head on. Once you name them, they start to lose their grip. You realize that someone's opinion doesn't define you, it's just noise. Another key to breaking free from emotional dependency is to redefine rejection. Most people see rejection as a verdict on their worth. But Carl Jung would argue, it's an opportunity to grow. Rejection doesn't mean you're not enough, it means you're standing for something real. When Michael's friend dismissed his ideas, he used to take it personally. But after embracing shadow work, he saw it differently. He thought, this isn't about me. It's about their perspective, their insecurities. That shift gave him freedom. He didn't need everyone to agree with him to feel good about himself. Let's make this real for you. Think about a time someone's words stung: a co-worker's critique, a friend's cold shoulder, or even a family member's judgment. Instead of letting it sink you, try this. Pause and breathe. Ask yourself, is this about me? Or is it about them 9 times out of 10? You'll see it's their baggage, not yours. This is how you start to detach your emotions from others' actions. You stop letting their words Write your story. One more tool to help you break free: practice self-validation. Carl Jung believed that the journey to individuation, becoming your true self, starts with trusting your own voice. For Michael, this meant celebrating his own wins, no matter how small. He'd finish a design project and tell himself, "I nailed this," and that's enough. He stopped waiting for others to pat him on the back. You can do the same. At the end of each day, take a moment to acknowledge something you did well. Maybe you handled a tough conversation with grace, or made a choice true to your values. That's you building your own foundation of worth. Brick by brick. Here's the bottom line. Emotional dependency keeps you vulnerable, but breaking free makes you untouchable. When you stop needing others to validate your worth, their words lose their sting. Their actions lose their power. Carl Jung's shadow work teaches us that the fears holding us back, like the fear of rejection, are just shadows in our mind. Face them, and they shrink. Embrace your own worth, and you become a force no one can shake. So, here's your challenge for this chapter. The next time you catch yourself seeking someone's approval, stop. Ask yourself, do I need this to feel good about myself? Then choose to validate yourself instead. Write down one thing you love about who you are, and carry that with you. You're building a new kind of strength, one that no one can touch. Stay with us, because in the next chapter, we'll explore the power of silence and how it can make you unstoppable. Let's keep going. Welcome to the third step on your journey to becoming untouchable, mastering the power of silence and non-reactivity. Picture this. Someone throws a jab at you, a snarky comment in a meeting, a passive-aggressive text, or a flat-out insult. Your instinct is to fire back, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. But what if the most powerful response isn't a comeback, but silence? What if doing nothing is the ultimate power? Move. Carl Jung's wisdom, particularly his concept of archetypes, shows us how to channel the strength of the warrior, calm, composed, and unshaken. In this chapter, we're diving into why silence is your secret weapon and how to use it to stay in control. No matter what the world throws at you, let's start with why reacting often backfires. When you snap back at an insult or argue to prove your point, you're giving the other person exactly what they want, a reaction. Carl Jung would say this plays into their game, feeding their need for control or validation. Think about it. People who criticize or provoke you aren't usually acting from strength. They're often projecting their own insecurities, trying to pull you into their chaos. By reacting, you hand them the reins to your emotions. But when you choose silence, you take that power back. You show them their words have no hold over you. That's what it means to be untouchable. Let's meet Emma, a 35-year-old project manager who learned this the hard way. Emma worked in a high-pressure office where one colleague, Tom, constantly undermined her in meetings. He'd make snide remarks about her ideas, like, "That's a bold plan, but I'm not sure it's realistic." In the past, Emma would jump to defend herself, explaining her reasoning in front of everyone. But the more she argued, the more Tom seemed to enjoy it, and the more drained she felt. It was like she was fighting a losing battle. Then, she came across Carl Jung's idea of the warrior archetype, a figure of inner strength who doesn't need to prove themselves to anyone. The warrior doesn't react impulsively, they respond with intention. Or sometimes, they don't respond at all. Inspired, Emma decided to try something new. The next time Tom threw a jab during a meeting, she didn't take the bait. Instead of defending her idea, she smiled, nodded, and said, "Thanks for the feedback, Tom. I'll consider it." Then she moved on. The room went quiet. Tom looked confused. expecting her to argue, but Emma's calm silence shifted the dynamic. She wasn't just avoiding conflict, she was owning it. Her colleagues started to see her as composed and confident, someone who didn't need to prove her worth. That's the power of non-reactivity. So, how do you harness this strength? Carl Jung's warrior archetype teaches us that true power lies in self-control, not in winning every argument. The warrior doesn't waste energy on pointless battles. They know their worth and don't need to shout it from the rooftops. Here's how you can channel that energy. First, pause before you respond. When someone provokes you, take a deep breath and count to 3. This simple act gives you space to choose your response, or to choose no response at all. Silence isn't weakness. It's a signal that you're in control. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're at a family gathering, and your uncle makes a jab about your career choices. Still chasing that dream job. Huh? When are you going to get serious? Your instinct might be to snap back or explain yourself. Instead, try this smile. Say something neutral like, "I appreciate your concern," and change the subject. Or say nothing at all. Watch how quickly the moment passes. Your uncle wants a reaction. Don't give it to him. By staying calm, you're not just avoiding drama. You're showing that his words can't touch you. Another key is to see provocation for what it is, a reflection of the other person, not you. Carl Jung's teachings remind us that people's actions often stem from their own inner struggles, what he called their shadow. When someone tries to bring you down, it's usually because they're wrestling with their own insecurities. That snarky colleague, they might feel threatened by your confidence. That critical family member, they might be projecting their own fears of failure. When you understand this, their words lose their sting. You don't need to react because it's not about you, it's about them. Here's a real-world exercise to practice non-reactivity. The next time someone says something that triggers you, try the observe. Don't absorb technique. Picture their words as a ball being thrown at you. Instead of catching it and letting it hit you emotionally, let it sail past. Mentally note what they said. But don't take it personally. Ask yourself, what's driving this person? Are they acting from strength or weakness? This perspective shift, rooted in Carl Jung's understanding of human behavior, helps you stay detached and in control. One more tool. Use silence strategically. Silence isn't just about not responding, it's about commanding presence. Think of the warrior archetype as someone who speaks only when it matters. In Emma's case, her silence in that meeting wasn't passive, it was powerful. It made people lean in, curious about what she'd say next. You can do this too. The next time you're in a heated situation, try saying less. Let the other person talk themselves out. You'll be amazed at how much respect you gain when you don't give in to the urge to react. Let's address a common worry. Does staying silent make you look weak? Absolutely not. Carl Jung would argue that silence is the ultimate sign of strength. It shows you don't need to prove yourself. It shows you're secure in who you are. When Emma stopped arguing with Tom, she didn't lose credibility. She gained it. Her silence said, "I don't need your validation." And that's what being untouchable is all about. Knowing your worth so deeply that no one's words can shake you. Here's the bottom line. Silence and non-reactivity are your weapons for staying untouchable. By choosing when to respond and when to stay quiet, you keep the power in your hands. Carl Jung's warrior archetype reminds us that true strength isn't about fighting every battle. It's about choosing the ones that matter. When you master this, no insult can rattle you. No criticism can break you. And no provocation can pull you into chaos. You walk through life calm, composed, and in control. Welcome to the 4th step on your journey to becoming untouchable, reprogramming your inner dialogue. Your mind is like a radio station, constantly broadcasting thoughts that shape how you see yourself and the world. But here's the catch. Most people let that radio play a soundtrack of doubt, fear, and negativity, often without even realizing it. A single harsh comment from someone can turn into a loop in your head. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. They're right about me. That's your inner dialogue at work. And it's either your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Carl Jung's teachings, especially his ideas of shadow work and individuation, show us how to take control of that inner voice and turn it into a source of strength. In this chapter, we're diving into how to reprogram your mind to build unshakable confidence, so no one's words or actions can ever shake you again. Let's start with why your inner dialogue matters so much. Carl Jung believed that the thoughts we feed ourselves become our reality. If you're constantly telling yourself you're not enough, your mind believes it, and it shapes everything: your confidence, your actions, your life. This is where Carl Jung's concept of the shadow comes in. The shadow holds the beliefs and fears we've buried, like the fear of failure or not being worthy. When someone criticizes you, it's not their words that hurt. It's the way those words hook into the doubts already lurking in your shadow. To become untouchable, you need to rewrite that script. You need to train your mind to broadcast strength, not insecurity. Let's meet Lisa, a 40-year-old teacher who struggled with her inner dialogue for years. Growing up, Lisa's mother was her toughest critic, always pointing out what she could do better. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" her mother would say. Those words stuck with Lisa, becoming the voice in her head that whispered, "You're not enough." Every time she faced a challenge, like a tough day with her students or a disagreement with a colleague, that voice grew louder, making her question her abilities. It was like she was carrying her mother's criticism with her, long after she'd grown up. Maybe you've had a voice like that too, one that replays old doubts or harsh words, keeping you from stepping into your power. Lisa's turning point came when she discovered Carl Jung's idea of shadow work, the process of facing and integrating the hidden parts of yourself. She realized that her negative inner dialogue wasn't the truth. It was a story she'd been told and kept repeating. To break free, she had to confront the shadow beliefs holding her back. Lisa started by asking herself, "Why do I believe I'm not enough? Where did this come from?" She traced it back to her childhood, to her mother's words, and saw that those words were more about her mother's expectations than about Lisa's worth. That realization was like flipping a switch. She decided to rewrite her inner dialogue, and it changed everything. Here's how you can do this too. The first step is to catch negative thoughts in the act. Carl Jung taught that self-awareness is the key to transformation. The moment you hear that inner voice say something like, "I messed up again," or "They think I'm a failure," stop it in its tracks. Don't let it run wild. Instead, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this true? Is this thought helping me or hurting me most of the time? You'll see it's just a reflex, not a fact. Lisa started doing this every time her inner critic flared up. When she caught herself thinking, "I'm not good enough to lead this project," she'd pause and counter it with, "I'm capable, and I'm learning every day." Over time, that new voice became her default. Here's a practical exercise to reprogram your mind. Grab a journal or a piece of paper and write down 3 negative thoughts you've had about yourself recently. Maybe it's, "I'm not smart enough for this job," or "No one takes me seriously." Next to each one, write a counter statement that's rooted in strength. For example, if you wrote, "I'm not smart enough," counter it with, "I have unique strengths, and I'm growing every day." Read those counter statements out loud to yourself every morning for a week. It might feel awkward at first, but you're training your mind to choose strength over doubt, just like Lisa did. Another key is to feed your mind with intention. Carl Jung's concept of individuation becoming your true Carl. Authentic self requires you to actively shape your inner world. Think of your mind as a garden. What you plant grows. If you plant seeds of self-doubt, you'll grow insecurity. But if you plant seeds of confidence and self-worth, you'll grow strength. Lisa started planting those seeds by practicing daily affirmations every morning. She'd look in the mirror and say, "I am enough. My value doesn't depend on anyone else." At first, she didn't fully believe it. But with repetition, it sank in. Her confidence grew, and she stopped letting others' opinions shake her. Let's make this real for you. Think about a recent moment when your inner dialogue turned negative, maybe after a mistake at work or a disagreement with a friend. Instead of letting that voice spiral, try this. Replace the negative thought with a positive one. If your mind says, "I always mess things up," swap it for, "I'm human. I make mistakes. And I'm learning." Say it out loud if you can. The more you repeat it, the more your mind starts to believe it. This is how you build a mental fortress that no one can breach. One more tool: detach from thoughts that don't serve you. Carl Jung taught that not every thought deserves your attention. Some thoughts are like junk mail, toss them out. If a thought weakens you, like "I'll never be as good as them," don't entertain it. Let it pass like a cloud in the sky. Lisa learned to do this when her inner critic tried to sabotage her. She'd notice the thought, acknowledge it, and then let it go, saying to herself, "That's not my truth." This practice helped her stay grounded, even when life got tough. Here's the bottom line: your inner dialogue shapes your reality. If you let it run on autopilot, it can keep you trapped in doubt and insecurity. But when you take control, inspired by Carl Jung's shadow work and individuation, you build a mind that's untouchable. No criticism can break you. No rejection can shake you. You become a force of confidence and self-worth, rooted in your own truth. So, here's your challenge for this chapter. Start catching and countering your negative thoughts. Write down one negative thought you've had today and replace it with a statement of strength. Say it to yourself every day this week, and watch how it shifts your mindset. You're rewriting the script of your life, one thought at a time. Stay with us, because in the next chapter, we'll explore how to embrace walking alone and become truly unshakable. Let's keep going. Welcome to the final step on your journey to becoming untouchable, embracing the power of walking alone. In a world obsessed with connection, likes, followers, and constant validation, it's easy to think that being surrounded by people is the key to happiness. But here's a truth that might surprise you. True strength comes from standing on your own. When you learn to walk alone, you stop needing others to define your worth. You stop fearing solitude. You become a force no one can shake. Carl Jung's wisdom, especially his concept of individuation, teaches us that the path to becoming your true self often requires embracing solitude. In this chapter, we'll explore why walking alone is your ultimate superpower and how it makes you truly untouchable. Let's start with why so many people fear being alone. From a young age, we're wired to seek belonging: friends, family, community. Carl Jung would say, this instinct comes from our collective unconscious, a deep-rooted need for connection that kept our ancestors alive. But in today's world, that instinct can become a trap. When you rely on others for your sense of worth, you give them power over you. A friend's silence feels like rejection. A lack of likes on your post feels like failure. You end up chasing approval, molding yourself to fit what others expect. That's not freedom. That's a cage. To become untouchable, You need to break free by embracing solitude as a source of strength, not a weakness. Let's meet David, a 29-year-old freelance artist who used to dread being alone. David grew up in a tight-knit community where fitting in was everything. He'd go to every social event, even when he didn't want to, just to avoid feeling left out. But deep down, he felt like he was losing himself. Every decision, his art, his style, even his dreams was shaped by what his friends or family thought. When a big client rejected his work, saying it wasn't marketable, David spiraled. He felt like a failure, not because of the rejection, but because he'd tied his worth to others' opinions. Sound familiar? Maybe you've stayed in a friendship, a job, or a situation longer than you should, just to avoid being alone. David's transformation began when he stumbled across Carl Jung's idea of individuation, the journey to becoming your true, authentic self. Carl Jung believed that solitude is where you confront who you really are, free from the noise of others' expectations. For David, this meant stepping away from the constant need to be surrounded by people. He started spending time alone, sketching in his studio, reflecting on what he wanted from his art, not what others thought was cool. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like the silence was too loud. But over time, he found clarity. He discovered his own voice, his own style, and a confidence he'd never known. Solitude wasn't lonely, it was liberating. Here's how you can embrace this power. The first step is to get comfortable with your own company. Carl Jung taught that solitude is where you meet your true self, stripped of the masks you wear for others. Start small. Set aside 10 minutes a day to be alone with your thoughts. No phone, no distractions, just you. Maybe you journal, meditate, or simply sit and reflect. Ask yourself, what do I want? What makes me feel alive? David started doing this, and it helped him realize he'd been creating art to please others, not himself. When he shifted to creating from his heart, his work became bolder, and clients started noticing. Here's a practical exercise to try. For 1 week, carve out 15 minutes each day to be alone. Write down one thing you love about yourself, or one dream you've been afraid to pursue because of what others might think. For example, maybe you've always wanted to start a blog, but worried people would judge it. Write it down and ask, if no one's opinion mattered, would I do this? This is individuation in action, discovering your true desires without the weight of external expectations. David used this practice to rediscover his passion for abstract art, and it led to a breakthrough project that landed him a major client. Another key is to stop fearing loneliness. Carl Jung saw solitude as a sacred space for growth, not something to avoid. When you're alone, you're free to think, dream, and create without anyone else's input. You don't need a crowd to feel secure. You become your own anchor. For David, this meant saying no to social events that drained him, and yes to quiet evenings where he could focus on his craft. He realized that being alone didn't mean he was isolated. It meant he was free to be himself. The less he needed others' approval, the more untouchable he became. Let's make this real for you. Think about a time you stayed in a situation, a friendship, a job, or even a family dynamic, because you were afraid of being alone. Now imagine what would happen if you let go of that fear. What if you chose yourself instead? Try this the next time you feel the urge to seek validation from someone else. Pause and turn inward. Remind yourself, I am enough, and I don't need anyone to complete me. This shift, rooted in Carl Jung's teachings, builds a foundation of self-reliance that no one can shake. One more tool. Use solitude to sharpen your mind. Carl Jung believed that time alone is where you build resilience and clarity. Think of it like training a muscle. David started reading books on creativity and psychology during his alone time, which not only inspired his art, but also gave him a deeper understanding of himself. You can do this too. Use your solo time to learn something new. Reflect on your goals, or explore a passion. Maybe it's reading a book, starting a hobby, or even taking a walk to clear your head. Solitude is your workshop for building an untouchable mind. Here's the bottom line. Walking alone doesn't mean you're lonely. It means you're free. Carl Jung's Individuation teaches us that true strength comes from knowing yourself so deeply that you don't need others to define you. When you embrace solitude, you stop chasing approval. You stop fearing rejection. You become a force that no one can touch. David learned this, and it transformed him from a people pleaser into an artist who stood tall in his own truth. You can do the same. So, here's your challenge for this chapter. Commit to 1 hour of intentional solitude this week. Use that time to reflect, journal, or pursue something that lights you up. Write down one thing you discover about yourself in that quiet space. You're not just walking alone. You're building an unshakable foundation. Stay with us, because in the next part, we'll wrap up with a powerful conclusion to tie it all together and send you off ready to conquer the world. Let's keep going. You've just walked through 5 powerful steps to become untouchable. Inspired by the timeless wisdom of Carl Jung, let's take a moment to reflect. You've learned to guard your inner world like a fortress. Break free from emotional dependency. Wield silence as a weapon. Reprogram your mind for strength. And embrace solitude as your superpower. This is what Carl Jung called individuation, the journey to becoming your true, authentic self. Unshaken by the noise of the world. You're not just untouchable, you're unstoppable. Here's the truth. No one can take away your power unless you give it to them. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, to validate yourself instead of seeking approval, to stand tall in your own truth, you're building a life no one can shake. You're not perfect, and you don't need to be. You're enough. Right here, right now. So, carry this strength with you. Let it guide you through every challenge, every criticism, every moment of doubt. You've got this. Now, it's time to take action. If this video sparked something in you, if it lit a fire to reclaim your power, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a Carl Jung-inspired insight from Jung's Psyche Hub. Drop a comment below and tell us which of these 5 steps are you going to start with today. Maybe it's pausing before reacting, or spending 10 minutes in solitude. We want to hear your story, and if you know someone who needs this message, share this video with them. Let's spread the power of becoming untouchable. This is just the beginning. At Jung Psyche Hub, we're here to guide you on your journey to self-discovery and inner strength. Stick with us for more life-changing wisdom from Carl Jung. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a stronger, unshakable version of yourself. Let's keep building that together. See you in the next one.